Imagine marrying for wealth and security, only to fall in love with someone forbidden, someone closer to your own age but tied to the very person funding your lavish lifestyle. This shocking story of betrayal, greed, and murder will leave you questioning just how far people will go to get what they want. This is not just a story about love and betrayal, it's about greed consuming morality and how forbidden desires can lead to deadly consequences. It reminds us that wealth and ambition, when unchecked, can destroy lives. Stay tuned as we uncover the chilling details, and don't forget to subscribe to Crime Chronicles for more stories that reveal the most twisted and unsettling truths about human nature. Marcus Brown, a 30-year-old man with striking good looks and a flair for charm, was the epitome of ambition cloaked in charisma. Drawn to the allure of luxury and wealth, Marcus found himself in an unconventional relationship with Ruth Calloway, a 73-year-old widow whose life was defined by opulence. Marcus met Ruth at a local charity event, where she was the center of attention due to her vast wealth and status. Ruth, in her early 70s, was elegant and poised, radiating a kind of charm that drew people in. Marcus had been drawn to her almost immediately. He knew that Ruth was the key to a lavish lifestyle that he couldn't easily attain on his own. Marcus played the part of a charming, attentive gentleman, listening intently to her stories and making her feel special. Ruth, flattered by the attention, seemed smitten by his youthful energy. He knew from that moment that she had caught his interest, not just romantically, but because she was a big catch. With her wealth and her widow status, Marcus saw an opportunity to live the life he'd always dreamed of, and he wasted no time in ensuring she saw him as more than just a charming companion. It didn't take long for him to convince Ruth that he could be the perfect man to fill the void in her life, setting the stage for his ultimate plan. Ruth, a retired business magnate, had built her empire from the ground up and enjoyed a lifestyle most could only dream of. However, despite her success, Ruth craved something money couldn't buy: companionship. Ruth saw in Marcus the youthful energy and physical connection she longed for. He was attentive, charming, and made her feel desired in a way she hadn't experienced in years. To her, Marcus was a breath of fresh air in her otherwise structured and lonely existence. For Marcus, however, the relationship was less about love and more about opportunity. He saw Ruth not as a partner but as a gateway to a life of unimaginable wealth. Marcus believed that Ruth's age meant their time together would be short, and when she eventually passed, her fortune would become his ticket to the life he always dreamed of. Their marriage, though unconventional, seemed stable at first. Marcus moved into Ruth's sprawling estate, a luxurious mansion in Atlanta's exclusive neighborhood. It was there he met Kayla Calloway, Ruth's 28-year-old daughter. Kayla, a strikingly beautiful woman with an adventurous spirit, was staying with her mother while pursuing her graduate degree. Kayla and Marcus's paths began crossing more frequently within the house. At first, their interactions were polite and casual, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Kayla's playful teasing and infectious laugh were magnetic, and Marcus found himself drawn to her in ways he couldn't ignore. Kayla, too, noticed Marcus's charm, and their once innocent exchanges grew increasingly flirtatious. Marcus had been living in Ruth's mansion for only a few weeks when he first laid eyes on her daughter, Kayla Calloway. Kayla was everything Ruth wasn't: youthful, vibrant, and full of energy. Her effortless beauty and lively demeanor made her the center of attention wherever she went. At first, Marcus treated her as nothing more than his wife's daughter, keeping a polite but respectful distance. But as time went on, he found it impossible to ignore the magnetic pull she had on him. Kayla had a natural charisma, the kind that lit up a room. She was studying for her master's degree and often spent hours in the mansion's sunlit study, surrounded by books and her laptop. Marcus would catch glimpses of her as he moved through the house, her laughter ringing out as she spoke on the phone or her focus unwavering as she scribbled notes. Unlike Ruth, who was meticulous and reserved, Kayla was carefree and unfiltered. Their interaction started innocently enough, casual conversations over breakfast or the occasional shared joke. But there was an undeniable tension that neither could ignore. Kayla, at first, saw Marcus as just her mother's younger husband, a man she thought was merely in it for the money. But his charm and attentiveness soon began to chip away at her initial skepticism. Marcus, always the smooth talker, found subtle ways to compliment her, from admiring her intelligence to teasing her about her late-night study habits. The turning point came one evening when Ruth had gone to a charity gala, leaving Marcus and Kayla alone in the house. Kayla had been studying late, and Marcus, noticing the light still on in the study, brought her a cup of tea. Their conversation started light, about her classes, her career ambitions, but gradually became more personal. Kayla confided in Marcus about her struggles living in her mother's shadow, how Ruth's controlling nature often left her feeling stifled. Marcus listened intently, offering words of encouragement and validation. As the hours passed, the atmosphere shifted. Their laughter became softer, their glances lingered longer, and the space between them grew smaller. When Kayla stood to put away her books, Marcus reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. The moment hung in the air, charged with an unspoken desire. But before anything could happen, Kayla pulled away, muttering an excuse and leaving the room. That night, neither of them could stop thinking about what had almost happened. For Kayla, the idea of being attracted to her stepfather was unthinkable, yet thrilling. For Marcus, it was as though a door had been opened to a life he truly desired, one filled with passion and excitement, far removed from his calculated marriage to Ruth. Their stolen moments grew more frequent after that night. Marcus would find reasons to spend time with Kayla, whether it was helping her with errands or sitting with her during her study breaks. Kayla, initially hesitant, found herself drawn to Marcus's charm and attentiveness. He made her feel seen and appreciated in a way no one else had. The affair began one evening when Ruth was away on a business trip. Kayla and Marcus shared a bottle of wine in the kitchen, their conversation taking on a more flirtatious tone. When Kayla reached for her glass, their hands touched, and this time, neither pulled away. Marcus leaned in, and Kayla, heart racing, didn't stop him. Their kiss was electric, a release of all the tension that had been building between them. From that moment, their relationship became a whirlwind of passion and secrecy. They would sneak around the mansion, meeting in guest rooms or in the garden under the cover of darkness. Every stolen moment felt like a thrilling game, one that left them both wanting more. As their relationship deepened, Marcus began to distance himself from Ruth. He spent less time with her, finding excuses to be out of the house or busy whenever she suggested spending time together. Ruth, accustomed to Marcus's charm, didn't immediately suspect anything. She chalked it up to the age gap, believing he needed space to feel like himself. But for Marcus and Kayla, the arrangement was unsustainable. They knew they couldn't continue their affair in secret forever. Their passion for each other burned too brightly, and their resentment toward Ruth grew with each passing day. They began to fantasize about a life together, one free from the shadow of Ruth's wealth and control. It was during one of their clandestine meetings that the idea first came up. What if we didn't have to sneak around anymore? Kayla whispered, her head resting on Marcus's chest. He looked down at her, his mind racing. What if we could just be together, without her in the way? The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. They both knew what she meant, and though neither said it outright, they began to plan. The affair that had started as a forbidden thrill was now driving them to consider the unthinkable, a way to eliminate Ruth and claim the life they believed they deserved. Marcus and Kayla spent days meticulously planning Ruth's murder. Late at night, when Ruth had already gone to bed, they would meet in the study, speaking in hushed tones about how to make her death appear natural. Marcus, calculating and manipulative, convinced Kayla that poisoning Ruth was the cleanest way. It would look like her age had finally caught up with her, and no one would suspect foul play. Kayla, though hesitant, agreed. The thought of their future together, free of Ruth's looming presence and with her wealth at their disposal, outweighed her guilt. She watched Marcus research sleeping pills, ensuring they chose a dosage lethal enough to stop Ruth's heart but subtle enough to mimic a peaceful passing. The night finally arrived. Ruth had spent the evening enjoying a glass of wine in the living room, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. Marcus and Kayla moved like shadows, their nervous energy masked by forced calmness. Marcus slipped into the kitchen under the guise of fetching a fresh bottle of wine. There, he crushed an excessive number of sleeping pills into a fine powder, mixing it carefully into Ruth's favorite vintage. "Here's to a relaxing evening," Marcus said, pouring the tainted wine into Ruth's glass and handing it to her with a smile. Ruth raised her glass, unaware that it would be her last sip. At first, everything seemed to be going according to plan. Ruth drank the wine without suspicion, chatting with Marcus about their upcoming plans for the house. Marcus nodded along, but his mind raced, counting the minutes until the poison took effect. About an hour later, Ruth began to feel drowsy. "I think I'm going to head to bed early tonight," she said, stifling a yawn. Marcus helped her to her bedroom, feigning concern as she swayed slightly. Kayla watched from the hallway, her heart pounding as Ruth disappeared into her room. But something went wrong. Instead of slipping into unconsciousness and passing away peacefully, Ruth began to experience severe distress. Her breathing became labored, and she clutched her chest in panic. Marcus rushed to her bedside, his initial calmness giving way to panic. "What's happening? Why isn't it working?" Kayla whispered urgently from the doorway. "She's not going fast enough," Marcus muttered, his voice trembling. "It's not supposed to be this way." Ruth, gasping for air, reached out weakly for Marcus. Her eyes were wide with fear, and for a moment, Marcus hesitated. But then, with Kayla's desperate gaze burning into him, he grabbed a pillow from the bed. "I have to finish it," he said, his voice cold and detached. He pressed the pillow over Ruth's face, muffling her struggling breaths. Ruth flailed weakly, but her frail body was no match for Marcus's strength. Within moments, her movement ceased, and the room fell eerily silent. Marcus stood there for a moment, the pillow still in his hands, as the gravity of what he had done settled over him. Kayla entered the room, her face pale and her hands trembling. Is it done?" she asked. Marcus nodded, dropping the pillow onto the bed. "It's done." Together, they worked quickly to stage the scene. Marcus adjusted Ruth's body so that it looked like she had peacefully passed away in her sleep. Kayla wiped down the wine glass and bottle, ensuring there were no traces of the poison. They even tucked a blanket up to Ruth's chin, adding to the illusion of a natural death. By the time they finished, it was nearly dawn. Exhausted but satisfied, Marcus and Kayla retreated to their respective rooms, waiting for morning to bring their act of deception to fruition. The morning after Ruth's staged death, her nurse, Patricia Daniels, arrived at the house for her usual routine checkup. Patricia, a diligent and perceptive woman in her late 40s, had cared for Ruth for years and was familiar with her habits, energy levels, and health. When Patricia entered Ruth's bedroom, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Ruth's body lay too still, her face slightly flushed, and there was a faint odor in the room that set off alarm bells. Patricia checked Ruth's pulse and found none. She quickly called 911 to report Ruth's passing, stating it appeared to be a natural death. But something gnawed at Patricia's instincts. Ruth had been vibrant and full of life, and although her age made a natural passing plausible, Patricia's gut told her something was off. While Patricia was on the phone, Marcus and Kayla burst into the room, putting on an elaborate show of grief. Marcus sank to his knees beside Ruth's bed, clutching her hand as tears streamed down his face. Kayla stood at the doorway, sobbing loudly, her body trembling. "Oh, my Ruth," Marcus wailed. "I can't believe you're gone." Patricia observed the pair carefully. Something didn't add up. She noticed that both Marcus and Kayla had entered the room together, coming from the same direction. Why hadn't Marcus spent the night in the same room as his wife? Why was he arriving with Kayla rather than coming from his own bedroom? As Patricia helped paramedics move Ruth's body, her suspicions deepened. She decided to share her unease with the authorities. She mentioned Ruth's vibrancy, her seemingly good health, and her suspicions about Marcus and Kayla's behavior. Patricia also hinted at the strange dynamic between Marcus and Kayla, recalling how she had once caught glimpses of their overly familiar interactions. The medical examiner conducted an autopsy on Ruth's body, as is standard procedure for unexpected deaths. While the initial assumption was natural causes, the toxicology report painted a different picture. Traces of a lethal dose of sleeping pills were found in Ruth's system, and bruising around her mouth and neck indicated possible suffocation. The autopsy results confirmed Patricia's suspicions: Ruth's death was anything but natural. Detectives were immediately assigned to the case. They began interviewing household staff, including Patricia and the housekeepers. Patricia shared her observations, including Marcus and Kayla's suspicious behavior on the morning of Ruth's death. The housekeepers corroborated her claims, revealing that Marcus and Kayla had been unusually close and often disappeared together for long stretches. Detectives turned their attention to Marcus and Kayla's digital devices. They uncovered a treasure trove of incriminating evidence: text messages filled with romantic exchanges, plans for their future, and discussions about inheriting Ruth's wealth. One message from Marcus to Kayla read, "Soon, it'll just be us. No more secrets, no more obstacles." Phone records revealed that the night before Ruth's death, Marcus and Kayla had exchanged multiple calls and messages, coordinating their plan. Witness statements from the staff added further weight to the evidence. Forensic investigators combed through the house, focusing on Ruth's bedroom and the areas where Marcus and Kayla had been spotted. They discovered a nearly empty bottle of sleeping pills in the bathroom trash can, which matched the toxicology findings. Residual traces of the crushed pills were found in the kitchen sink, suggesting where the poison had been prepared. With overwhelming evidence, the police obtained warrants for Marcus and Kayla's arrests. The pair was taken into custody, their carefully crafted lies unraveling under the weight of the investigation. Marcus maintained his innocence, claiming Ruth's death was natural, but the evidence against him was damning. Kayla, under pressure and fear of a life sentence, cracked during interrogation. She admitted to the affair and confessed that she and Marcus had planned Ruth's murder to be together and secure her fortune. The greed-fueled conspiracy was exposed to the world, leaving everyone stunned by the sheer audacity and cruelty of their actions. Marcus and Kayla, once confident in their scheme, were now facing the full force of the law. The courtroom was packed as Marcus Brown and Kayla Calloway faced justice for their heinous crimes. Their shocking affair and the cold-blooded murder of Ruth Calloway had captured national attention, sparking outrage and heated debates about morality, greed, and betrayal. The media frenzy painted Marcus as a manipulative predator and Kayla as a willing accomplice, fueling public anger. The prosecution built a meticulous case against Marcus and Kayla, presenting an avalanche of evidence that painted a clear picture of their guilt. They started with the toxicology report, which revealed Ruth's death was caused by a lethal dose of sleeping pills and suffocation. They also played the damning text messages between Marcus and Kayla for the jury, exposing their affair and premeditated plan to murder Ruth. Witnesses, including the housekeepers and Patricia Daniels, the nurse, testified about the suspicious dynamics in the house and Marcus's increasingly distant behavior toward Ruth. The most shocking testimony came from Patricia, who described the morning she discovered Ruth's body and Marcus and Kayla's staged grief. Their sadness felt rehearsed, she told the jury, her voice steady. And the way they arrived together, it just didn't sit right with me. Marcus's defense attorney argued that Ruth's death was a tragic accident, claiming the sleeping pills were self-administered and her suffocation was inconclusive. They attempted to portray Marcus as a loving husband who was being vilified by circumstantial evidence. Kayla's defense team took a different approach, painting her as a naive young woman manipulated by Marcus's charm and control. They claimed she had no active role in the murder and was merely a pawn in his larger scheme. However, the jury was unconvinced. The overwhelming evidence and Kayla's partial confession during interrogation sealed their fate. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Marcus was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and tampering with evidence. The judge handed him a life sentence without the possibility of parole, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Kayla was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and accessory to murder. The court acknowledged her cooperation during the investigation, as well as her perceived influence under Marcus, and sentenced her to 25 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. The sentencing brought some closure to Ruth's remaining friends and extended family, but the scars of betrayal and loss ran deep. Ruth's estate was frozen during the legal proceedings, and the court later ruled that the inheritance would go to charity, ensuring that neither Marcus nor Kayla could benefit from her wealth. The media coverage of the trial ended with haunting images of Marcus being led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, his once confident demeanor replaced with stoic silence. Kayla, visibly shaken and tearful, mouthed an apology to the audience before being escorted away. The case became a cautionary tale, sparking debates about greed, morality, and betrayal. It left a chilling R.N. desires can destroy lives, leaving devastation in their wake. Marcus and Kayla's love story, built on deceit and greed, had ended in ruins, ensuring they would forever be remembered not as lovers but as conspirators in a cruel and unforgivable crime. This horrifying tale of greed and betrayal exposes the darkest side of human nature, showing how forbidden desires and unchecked ambition can lead to ruin. Ruth Calloway's trust in her young husband and love for her daughter were repaid with deception and murder, leaving behind a cautionary tale about the dangers of wealth and manipulation. What would you do if you discovered such betrayal within your own family? Would you be able to trust again, or would this destroy your faith in those closest to you? If this story shocked you, make sure to follow Crime Chronicles and stay tuned for more gripping stories that uncover the deepest and most unsettling truths about human behavior.